Hello. Do you remember when you were little and people would ask you what you wanted to do when you grew up? Well, I always kind of knew that I wanted to work with the sick and help the sick. But it wasn't just until very recently that I found out that you don't necessarily just have to be a doctor to do that. So today I'm going to introduce myself to you professionally as a future nurse practitioner. And I believe that with my previous education and the education that I am willing to put towards this, combined with my personal characteristics, I would make a fantastic nurse practitioner. But first of all, you might be wondering, what exactly is a nurse practitioner? Well, according to the Mayo Clinic, they have only been around for about the last 40 years. And the American Association of Nurse Practitioners, which is actually the professional organization for people in this career, do say that it is somebody that either has a master's or a PhD in nursing, which means that after a person finishes their 4 years of undergraduate, they either spend either 2 more for the master's or 3 more for the PhD on average in education just to become a nurse practitioner. But according to the U.S. News and World Report, it has actually become the 5th top ranked career in healthcare, which is kind of impressive given the fact that they haven't been around for that long, along with the fact that actually there's like thousands of healthcare careers. But what they actually do is kind of vary depending on the state. In the state of Florida, a nurse practitioner can only practice if there is a doctor on the premise. And a nurse practitioner, as of right now, is not allowed to prescribe any kind of scheduled medication, which would include people's like pain medications and a lot of things that people would go to the doctor for. But according to Tillman, who writes in the Tampa Bay Times that nurse practitioners are seeking more authority in Florida than ever before, this is something that has been a debate in legislation and that they are trying to pass, so nurse practitioners would actually be able to practice independently of doctors, much like they do right now in Arizona and Illinois and many other states. But a nurse practitioner is, first of all, a nurse, and any nurse kind of has the same basis as far as the characteristics that they have. So, Health eCareers writes that the top qualities employers demand in nurse practitioners include just people who are encouraging, people who are great at communication, definitely people that have patience, people who are flexible, and people who, at the same time, are very diligent and willing to put in the work to be able to diagnose and treat a patient. And I believe that I am all of these things. And I believe that even though Malone writes that the disadvantages of being a nurse practitioner include things such as working long hours and being exposed to diseases, you have no more harm with that than you would, as I do right now as a licensed practical nurse. So this is something that I would not see as a disadvantage personally. But pretty much all of my education up until this point has been towards the medical career. When I was in high school, I took double the amount of science classes that we were required to. I even ended up dual enrolling at the University of Florida and taking more classes at the University of Florida, just so I can kind of gather as much knowledge as I could. Since college, I finished licensed practical nursing school. I'm actually working as a nurse now, and at the same time, I started doing the registered nursing school just so I can have more experience with a wider scope of practice and a wider scope of residents and facilities that I can work in. So I think I am well on my way to being a fantastic nurse practitioner. And all of the things that they write as disadvantages to me really would not be. So there's a good chance that since recently there was actually legislation passed that starting 2017 that nurse practitioners, much like in Arizona and Illinois, could practice independently of doctors. So in a couple of years, there's a good chance that the next time that you go into a healthcare clinic, that the person who you will be talking to will not be an actual doctor, but be a nurse practitioner, which works in the patient's favor because they are actually allowed to spend more time with the patients. So I think that's always a positive. But thank you guys so much for your time. Here's my index card.